All right. Well, welcome everybody to this Ploud webinar on making your website friendlier for mobile viewing. What I want to do today is just go over some general guidelines for how to think about your laying out your site, designing your site, organizing it now that you're on Ploud, which is a responsive framework, and we'll get a little bit more in detail about that. We're not going to go too deep into techniques for doing this stuff because, I'm still getting familiar with the ways that everybody wants to customize their site. So I don't want to lead anybody too far down a path that may not be relevant to them. But I do want to lay out some general guidelines for how to think about it, and we'll see what we can come up with. So first of all, as far as why we want to do this in the first place, over the past couple of years, it seems like everybody got a smartphone or an iPad. I got tricked into that. I don't really like it, but and so what we're seeing is that a whole lot of internet traffic is the trend is just straight up. So chances are, if someone is accessing your site these days, there's a very good probability they're doing it on a phone or on a tablet, especially if they're doing something like trying to look up what hours your library is open. They might be doing that while they're sitting in a fast food restaurant somewhere. And so what we want to make sure of is your sites are usable not just from a laptop or a desktop, but on just about any device that someone wants to access it on. So at this point, given the range of technologies that people are using, an iPhone screen is like 4 inches across, or you could buy like a giant monitor that's 30 or 40 inches. We're accessing things on a variety of different devices, and we still need to be able to find everything that's important on that site from them. And so the challenge that presents is that mobile screens are so much smaller that we can't present the information that we are used to, so we have to find a different way to do it. So there's a couple of different ways that gets done. One of them is, and I'm sure that you've seen this a lot if you use your phone to look around online, is that a lot of sites will have a separate mobile-only version of their site. And the other way to do that is to build a site using what we call responsive design. And the idea there is that we're just designing sites and laying them out, organizing them so that they make sense no matter what size your screen is, to a point. And so here, what I'm showing here is just an example of a website. You may, like, if you just go to any news site or a culture site or something, what you'll see is this kind of thing where you've got a list of articles and a navigation pane and a title and stuff. And then when you look at it on the mobile view, you've got all those same elements, but they're just organized a little bit differently to accommodate for how squished the screen is. And that's the sort of thing that we're talking about doing. So and this little layout wireframe kind of applies to the example I was just showing you, and it applies to your Ploud site. So you're going to have a top section of your page where you've got your site logo and title showing up, and then just under that you've got your navigation bar, and then under that you've got your main section of your site with the page content in the middle, and then portlets on the left and right sides, and a footer at the bottom if you choose to add anything to that. So that all makes sense, and we're used to it on our full-size computers. But if we do that on a mobile device, everything's going to be either squashed up against each other so you can't read it, or it's going to be so small that you have to zoom in and like navigate around, and it just becomes really difficult to use. And using a responsive design is about identifying those elements in the page and then reorganizing them so that they make sense with that tiny screen. And so what we do is we just kind of take those parts like the content and the portlets that are side by side, and we say, okay, well, now they're going to be on top of each other, because it's very natural to go through and just scroll up and down on a phone, whereas a lot of other stuff is harder to do. So some effects of using responsive design in your website, as far as like what it's going to look like, what's going to be different from your old one. One thing, and I know several people have made note of this. I know on the forums and stuff. There is more visible white space on the sides of your page, and let's see. Let me, and you can see that when we look at something like the Dripping Springs website, which is one that I know has been the staff over there has been actively working on their website, making it look great on the new template. But you've got a lot of white space over at the edges, just because we've got to be able to condense this down and still keep all of our content organized well. So you can see that that's something that the white space is an effect of doing that, I guess. All right, and then another difference is that you'll see fewer kind of fixed width items like grids and tables. And so I know that in looking through the sites that we've been migrating into the Ploud system, I've seen a lot of them that do have images and information laid out in grids on the home page to kind of organize their information. And that's been really useful in the past. But now that we're kind of designing for a more flexible framework, you see a lot fewer of those things. And the reason for that is that it's a little bit it's harder to display those things. Oh, sorry about that. It's harder to display those things on a mobile in a mobile environment. And so you can see, for instance, if I downsize this Dripping Springs page and I scroll down, there's some things that there's a table used to lay out this element, and I have to scroll through it to see the whole thing, which is kind of annoying on a phone. But if I'm full size on the page, then it makes a lot of sense. So that's something that's coming from the old version of the page that is, you might look at changing how that's implemented on your new site. And then there's a lot of it is just because we're focused on the movement of scrolling as opposed to like clicking different options all over the page using our mouse. That leads to simplified navigation and kind of hiding detailed content behind links or previews or something. So you might have a little bit of explanation of something and then just a link that says, like, if you want to know more, then click here, and you have a more text-heavy page. So those are the sorts of things that you would be thinking about when you're reimagining your site with mobile viewing in mind. And so one of the things I mentioned, the navigation menus, changing those. We've done some design around that on your new sites, and so what we've done is basically every folder that's in the main part of your site shows up as an option in your top navigation menu right here. And so you can control what's in this top navigation menu by controlling what folders are in the main part of your site. And so you can see, we've got in this example, we've got this kids folder, a Western history room, a news and events, about us, research folder. all, and these are all fairly standard. You'll see most of these on almost every library site. And then for each one, when we open it, we'll see a list of links, and these should only be for the folders that are within that folder. So for example, like the kids corner is another folder that's inside the kids folder, and you can navigate to those. And then so this is what that looks like on the full size view. And then on the mobile size view, you would actually your navigation actually collapses down under this little accordion button. And so when you click it, and this when your browser is condensed this far, it takes on the same view as it would on your phone. So you can actually test out the mobile version just by shrinking your browser. You don't have to go in and type in a long URL on your phone if you don't want to. And so you can see that you get all those same menu options laid out a little bit differently, and then you can go through and click through those and see your folders. And so one of the things that we've added that you may have noticed is that there's a folder home option on each of these. So for instance, the research folder will have a research home. Your news and events folder will have a news and events home. Your kids will have a kids home. And all that does is when you're on your phone and you click this accordion, you're able to navigate to the top level of that folder without having to do anything funky. So I just want to point that out in case anybody saw that and didn't know what that was. And so yeah, the basic idea, and this is covered also in the help desk article on organizing your site's top navigation menu. The idea is just to minimize the number of options that we're trying to show on the page at once, and just make sure that you're considering what those menus will look like on, both with a lot of screen real estate and only a very little bit. And the idea here is to get people where they're trying to go in as few clicks as possible. So it's always useful to kind of plot out what are the important parts of your site for your users, and how are they going to get there, and how can I organize my folders and my navigation menus and all this stuff so that it will be easiest for them to get to the things that they're going to try to get to most often. And then another note is that I know most sites will have a navigation portlet on the left-hand side, and so you can see that here in this example site. And when you shrink down your view, what will happen to that is I'll actually show it to you, so you can see it go away. So it's showing up on the left-hand side of your screen, and then once you get past a certain size, shrinking down, your portlet wells will actually disappear, and they don't disappear, but they jump down below your main content. So you can see if I scroll all the way down, then I have my navigation portlet here, and my location and hours, all this stuff. So that's something to keep in mind, is that all of your portlets will show up on the mobile versions of your site, but your users will have to scroll all the way down to them. So while they're still usable, they're a little bit more secondary because they're all the way down at the bottom there. So if you're used to relying on that left-hand navigation, then you may want to think about, okay, how can I reorganize the content on my site so that that top navigation gives me as much flexibility as it can without having to scroll all the way down to that left-hand navigation that got bumped down. And the same sorts of things apply to how you'd want to think about organizing your folders. Again, because mostly we're mostly we're scrolling. We want to try to do things in as few clicks as possible. And also, it's hard to use your finger or your thumb to click something that's not very big and it's surrounded by lots of other things that you could click. So just kind of spacing out content, making it easily accessible with big text, and just asking yourself kind of like, again, what are the most important things that your users are going to want to be able to do? What do you want them to be able to find easily? And for each of those things, like how many clicks is it going to take them to get there? Because each one of those is a little bit more work than it would be on a computer that has a mouse. So it's just a little bit more frustrating. So the more we can minimize that, the better. And yeah, so if there are specific things that you would like help on in doing all these things, like how do I move my folders around? Like how do I organize things in my top navigation menu? How should I switch my portlets around so that they'll appear higher up on the mobile sites and stuff? There's lots of different ways to get help on that. We have open sessions a couple times a week, and those are places where you can just come in and ask whatever questions you've got. I'm here to help with whatever things you need help with. And then there's also the discussion forums, and we've had several people ask questions there, and that's a great tool for us because it helps. It gives us a chance to talk through things that aren't necessarily issues, but are things that maybe aren't clear, and it gives everybody visibility because other users can see, oh, this person's having this problem, or this person's confused about something. And then again, logging support tickets and reading through the articles that we have posted on the knowledge base. So I didn't want to get too far into detail just because as much as possible, I want any help I'm giving to be driven by the stuff that you guys are trying to do. So I'll open up for questions if anybody has any specifics that they want to go through or that they are interested in hearing more about. I'm happy to help with that. So does anybody have anything that they're curious about or want more clarification on? All right. Well, I guess if there's nothing else, then yes, the slideshow will be available online. I'll post it as an attachment along with the recording of the presentation, just so that you have access to both of those. Okay. Well, it's great to hear from you guys. Thank you for coming out, and if there is, we'll be holding not just the open sessions, but more targeted sessions also on a regular basis, weekly. And I'll be posting notices about those as they approach. If there are, again, if there are any topics that you would like to see covered, then feel free to post that on the forums or and let us know what you're interested in hearing about, and I'd be happy to help out with that. Oh yeah, I had fun looking up guides on, and there's a lot of guides online about how to make your site mobile friendly. A lot of them aren't very good, but there is a lot of good information out there, and lots of fun flow diagrams and all this. The contact numbers. I think there should be a number posted on the help desk somewhere. I don't recall precisely where. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, let's see. There's there's a 24-hour helpline. Let me grab the. That's available for now. What that'll do is that's a I think it's a messaging service. So you can call in and talk through your problem, and we'll receive an email recording of your message. As far as direct contact numbers, I'm not sure. I need to look and get those, but I can hang on. I have time blocked out until 3 today, so I can hang on at the end of the session and talk through if you have some questions that you would like to work through right now. So I guess I will I will cut off the recording of this, so we'll have that available, and then BJ, if you want to hang on and ask whatever questions you have, I'll be happy to help.